The following program, The Russ Belville Show, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate to the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate any illegal activity and encourage all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers on The Russ Belville Show are their own, and The Russ Belville Show cannot be held legally responsible for their validity or reliability. Viewer discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think that we need to rethink it and criminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Yeah, I hear you had a question for me.
Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
We love it.
All right, stay focused. Welcome to the show. It is Friday, February 28th, 2014, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. We're coming to you live and direct from the St. Paul Hotel in St. Paul, Minnesota. Talking to you right now from the lobby because that is the place where I found the only Wi-Fi that is going to work for our show today. So hopefully you get to see a little bit of this nice hotel, pretty swanky. And I want to give you a look outside as well here in St. Paul because it is frigid outside. Let me tell you that. We'll switch cameras here on the Galaxy S4 and make our way outside in beautiful St. Paul where it is freezing, people. I'm telling you. Head out here through the door and now we're outside in the, I think, single-digit temperatures. It's a beautiful place out here. You can see this enormous cathedral out front, local time out here. I don't think that clock is accurate, but just a beautiful place out here, St. Paul, Minnesota. And in fact, my room is that window right there. So very glad to be here. Thanks to Minnesota Normal for having us out. It's been a fantastic event so far. And today on the show, we're going to bring you some speeches from the event. We've got Neil Franklin, the Executive Director of Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. His speech yesterday. Now, we've only got audio for you, unfortunately. We do have the video that we can replay when I get back. But we only got audio today because of upload problems that we were having as far as the speed of the Wi-Fi. But we'll get Neil Franklin, the Executive Director of Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. That'll be in our Cops Say Legalized Drug segment taking place at 1:30. Also in hour 2, we'll bring you speeches from Keith Stropp, the founder of Normal, and myself in hour 2. So stay tuned for that. We're going to bring you the 420 radio news. We've got some headlines to bring you from all around the country and the world, as well as time to go behind the headlines here, where we're going to talk a little bit about some reefer madness that's going on now that marijuana is becoming legalized. We've also got a look at recent stories on dogs getting into edibles in Colorado. All that and more coming up on the Russ Belville Show here live from St. Paul, Minnesota. Hello.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Cast your eyes up to the skies. What is it to live and die? Calculated stars and lights.
Cannabis Outreach Collective is an alternative health and wellness option located in Gladstone, Oregon, that serves patients in the Portland area and beyond. We are a full-service alternative health and wellness collective accommodating patients with natural, organic, holistic, and homeopathic remedies, nutritional guidance, advice, education, and medical cannabis, fully in accordance with Oregon OMMP law. You can find out more about Cannabis Outreach Collective on Facebook at COC503 or by emailing cannabisoutreachcollective503@gmail.com or by telephone at 503-853-1319. Check out our menu on Weed Maps and visit Cannabis Outreach Collective today. 420 Radio, the world's voice of marijuana legalization. When you are starting up a medical cannabis business, you don't just want any attorney. You want a fired-up lawyer who understands the needs of cannabis consumers. The law office of Lauren Vasquez is your fired-up lawyer for the cannabis industry. Lauren Vasquez knows the details of California marijuana law from both a personal and professional angle. Lauren Vasquez rose from the ranks of college normal activist to become one of the Bay Area's best marijuana lawyers. Visit her website, fireduplawyer.com, or call 1-855-MMJ-LAWS for more information. That's 855-665-5297 for Lauren Vasquez, your fired-up lawyer, or email fireduplawyer@gmail.com. The number again is 855-MMJ-LAWS, 855-665-5297 for your fired-up lawyer, Lauren Vasquez. Lauren Vasquez is an activist attorney you can trust. Call today.
This is your 420 Radio News for Friday, February 28th, 2014, brought to you by the National Cannabis Coalition. I'm Russ Belville. Marijuana triggered the deaths of 2 men, study says. This from CBS News. Marijuana likely triggered fatal complications that led to the deaths of 2 men with underlying health conditions, according to a German study. The findings published online this month in Forensic Science International are noteworthy because cannabis isn't normally associated with acute health problems, let alone death. The researchers wrote, quote, "To our knowledge, these are the first cases of suspected fatal cannabis intoxications where full post-mortem investigations were carried out," end quote. The researchers, based in Dusseldorf and Frankfurt's university hospitals, said these were isolated cases, but suggested people who might have serious heart problems should be made aware of the risk of cannabis use. The cases involved 2 outwardly healthy young men, aged 23 and 28, who died unexpectedly after smoking cannabis. Autopsies showed that the younger man had a serious undetected heart problem, and the older one had a history of alcohol, amphetamine, and cocaine abuse. We will discuss this topic with Dr. Mitch Earlywine on Monday in our Cannabis Science segment. Medical marijuana in Oregon, the dispensary registry starts up on Monday, this from the Oregonian. Oregon's latest experiment with marijuana policy begins Monday, 8:30 a.m. sharp to be exact, when what is expected to be a crush of medical marijuana retailers registers with the state. The dispensary registry, the product of 2013 legislation, legitimizes the already booming business of medical marijuana in Oregon, home to about 60,000 people legally allowed to use cannabis for medical purposes. Representative Peter Buckley, Democrat of Ashland, a sponsor of the dispensary legislation, said the new program represents a significant movement in the politics and perception of marijuana. Buckley said, quote, "Obviously, the momentum is with those of us who believe marijuana is not the all-dangerous, scary, damaging drug that it has been depicted to be in the war on drugs. To me, this is like a step in ending the hypocrisy around marijuana," end quote. In addition to giving patients retail access to marijuana, the new dispensary program also represents the first effort by the state to regulate and enforce rules for the thriving retail trade. For the first time, regulators are expected to make unannounced annual inspections to these establishments, which are required to turn over their marijuana sales records and archived surveillance on demand. Colorado vets warn of edible marijuana threat to pets from ABC News. Vets at clinics and emergency hospitals in Colorado are reporting more pets than ever are being brought in suffering from marijuana poisoning after eating pot-laced edibles. Bree Pasco from the VRC Emergency Hospital in Inglewood, Colorado, told ABC News since the state passed medical marijuana licenses, they've seen an increase from an occasional incident to between 2 to 3 cases of pets accidentally eating pot edibles in a week. Pasco said 97% of those cases involved dogs. Dr. Kevin Fitzgerald of the VCA Alameda East Veterinary Hospital cited similar numbers in his clinic in Denver. Although VCA has previously seen 2 cases of an iguana and a turtle separately bringing in their owners' pot stashes, it's mainly dogs that get into the edibles, he said. Since 2010, Fitzgerald said it has grown from roughly 2 cases a month to 1 every other day. Marijuana smoking igloo leads to bust for University of Utah students, from the Salt Lake Tribune. 4 University of Utah students got creative earlier this year when they decided to use a hidden snow igloo to smoke weed on campus. University of Utah Police Sergeant Garth Smith said the students either constructed or found an abandoned igloo made of snow that had walls about 10 inches thick and was about 4 feet tall in the woods in the Red Butte Creek area between residential housing and Research Park. Smith said the igloo, which was large enough to hold 4 men, was pretty well camouflaged. A campus security guard was passing by the area in late January and heard some noises, walked over, and discovered the igloo and the men inside. When police arrived, they smelled a strong odor of marijuana and found the 4 students inside allegedly smoking marijuana. Smith said the incident for him was the first in his 14 years as a university police officer. Justin Bieber's Georgia fun interrupted. Police find pot and pipes in limo search. Police searching Justin Bieber's limo found illegal drugs and paraphernalia Tuesday, a police report said. Less than an ounce of suspected marijuana and 2 large glass smoking pipes containing suspected marijuana residue were found inside the vehicle. An investigation said no charges were filed against Justin Bieber. This has been your 420 Radio News for Friday, February 28, 2014. I'm Russ Belville. Transcripts of 420 Radio News are available exclusively at the National Cannabis Coalition. Visit ncc420.com today to download. When we come back, we'll go behind the headlines and take a look at the struggle of the U.S. drug war in Latin America now that Washington and Colorado have legalized pot. You're listening to The Russ Belville Show on 420radio.org. We'll be right back.
Hey, tokers and tokettes, Radical Russ here to introduce you to my friend Matt and all the staff at Lush LED Lighting. Growing plants indoors can be a rewarding hobby, but electricity bills can go through the roof. Then you have to cool down all those big hot lights. It can drive a grower insane. With Lush LED Lighting, you can solve many of these issues and double your rewards. If you thought LEDs were meet the tech of today, Matt and his scientists have developed the perfect light for flowering plants with far less cost and heat. And the results? Let's just say I appear at a lot of events with the masters of indoor horticulture, and the harvests I saw from Lush LED Lighting were big, tight, sticky, and very effective. Check out LushLEDlighting.com right now and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Double your rewards and lower your expenses with Lush LED Lighting. You know Herb Thrasher from the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Now get ready for Herb Age Designs for the proud cannabis consumer. Herb Age Designs, lifestyle gear for the 420 friendly. Herb Age Designs, home of the famous lighter leash. Herb Age Designs, get your Herb Age t-shirts and hoodies and show your pride. Herb Age Designs, we've got frisbee golf discs and durable hemp gear. Herb Age Designs, we've got shot glasses, drinking glasses, coffee mugs, and beer cozies. Check us out on Facebook and online at herbagedesigns.com. And follow Herb Age and Herb Thrasher on Twitter. We'll see you at this year's Hemp Fest. Crank it up.
Hemp Beach TV. From the secret hemp beach, Fridays at 1 p.m. Pacific, on 420radio.org.
Welcome back, everybody. Time for us to go behind the headlines. And I was looking at Forbes.com today, and the article by our good friend Jacob Sullum out there that just caught my eye. It's entitled, U.S. General Complains That Marijuana Legalization Makes Latin American Officials Less Eager to Join the War on Drugs. Well, really? What a surprise. This is the quote. One of these generals who's serving down there in Latin America in charge of trying to, fight this fight and to bring more of these countries on board to stopping their drug traffickers. This general was testifying on Capitol Hill today, and here's what he had to say. Quote, "We've been encouraging these countries to be in the drug fight for 25 years. The level of violence that our drug problem has caused in many of these countries is just astronomical. And so when we talk about decriminalizing, the example I would give you is the 2 states that voted to decriminalize marijuana or legalize marijuana. Most of the countries I deal with were in utter disbelief that we would, in their opinion, be going in that direction, particularly after 25 years of encouraging them to fight our drug problem in their countries and, in their littorals. So that's kind of where they are on it. They're very polite to me, but every now and again, they're not so polite. The term hypocrite gets into the discussion. But frankly, the crime rate is so high in many of these countries, and the fact that they see us turning away from the drug fight, they're starting to chatter a lot about, well, why don't we just step back and let it flow?" So the general is upset here that the status quo that we've had for so many years of just being completely prohibitionary toward marijuana and marijuana trafficking, now that wall's been broken, that has been breached, if you will, they are having trouble getting the rest of Latin America to sign on to punish people. We heard this in Mexico as well when they said, why should we be busting the growers in Mexico for supplying something that will be legal once it makes its way to Colorado or to Washington? Not exactly legal because you can't really sell that stuff, but still, it'd be legal to possess. And so this is a public policy issue and a big foreign relations issue when it comes to Latin America. And they are being completely logical about this. And this is something, an effect of the war on drugs that's been a long time coming. One of the reasons, we saw this prohibition exhibit last night in the Minnesota History Museum. And one of the things that helped alcohol prohibition to get overturned in just 13 years was the easy realization by the public of all of the drug crime, the alcohol crime, the bootleggers, the shootouts, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, and so on, that were happening in their streets, that were happening in Chicago, in New York, in places that were having to deal with bootlegging. With the war on drugs, the violence, at least for most Americans, has been confined either to the inner cities, to black populations, to Latino populations, and of course, largely to Latin America, Mexico, South America. So there's it's not happening in their backyard issue to this, and they don't feel the urgency necessary in overturning this. And when there are problems with drugs, people will attribute them to the drugs themselves and not the prohibition that causes the crime, that causes the disputes. So the fact that the generals now in the drug war are having trouble recruiting these other countries' generals in fighting the drug war is a sign of the progress that we've made. And once again, a sign of how important it was to pass legalization in 2012. We had so many people complaining about this aspect, that aspect, no home grow in Washington, DUID laws, it's only an ounce. All of these complaints are so small compared to the worldwide effect that the legalization in Washington State and Colorado have had, and now legalization happening in the country of Uruguay. It's always been, ever since Jack Herer was writing about it, it's always been a case of the emperor wears no clothes. And as soon as the first little boy points out that the emperor is naked, everybody else can see it. The wall of silence is broken. And that's what's happened here with respect to Latin America, with respect to our war on drugs here in the United States and worldwide, that's been propped up by the United States now for over 40 years. This is all coming apart at the seams. It's beautiful to watch it happen. And we hope that these Latin American countries can push the United States to sooner rather than later end these prohibitionary policies that are so devastating to our Latin American friends and neighbors, the Southwest. All right, that means it's 20 after the hour. That means it's time for us to take a break. We're way past 4:20 here in Minnesota. It's actually 5:20, so I'm a little late. I'll try to catch up.
Well, get smoking.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
I'm Sub Cool from Team Green Avenger. At TGAgenetics.com, we are working on the leading edge of medical strains. Our strains are rigorously tested for THC, CBD, THCV, and other critical cannabinoids. Know your grow. Check out our genetic diversity at TGAgenetics.com, the home of Jelly Bean, Jack the Ripper, Vortex, and other award-winning cannabis strains.
Support the Russ Belville Show. Text the word Russ to 420-420 and connect with the National Cannabis Coalition. You can also send $10 to the Russ Belville Show right from your smartphone. That's Russ to 420-420. You're listening to Radical Russ on the Russ Belville Show.
You still don't get it, do you? Alright, let me make this as clear as I possibly can. This is your brain. This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Rockin' Friday, featuring rock, metal, and the hard edge of alternative country. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tunes.
All right, everybody, welcome back. It's 23 after the hour. Just stepped outside into the frigid St. Paul weather there to enjoy a couple of vapor hits off of a vape pen. Big thanks to Minnesota Normal for setting us up with vapor pens since we're stuck in a non-smoking hotel. We go now live to my friend Herb Thrasher, who I hope is on the line. Are you there, Herb?
Nope, no Herb.
No Herb Thrasher. Okay, so we're just going to go right ahead with Rockin' Friday today. We'll take care of it ourselves. And want to remind you, though, Herb Thrasher Flower Hour is live tonight, 8 p.m. Pacific time. Brian the Red will be sitting in for me, and I'll be calling in from here in St. Paul. Maybe I'll Skype in. We can do video Skype as well, and that'll be a good time. All right, so stay tuned, because coming up later, we've got Neil Franklin, the Executive Director of Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. We've got his audio from last night as he spoke at the Minnesota History Museum on the exhibit of prohibition, alcohol prohibition. And then in hour 2, you'll get audio from me and from Keith Stropp, the founder of Normal. But for right now, let's get to our Rockin' Friday Daily Toker Tunes. All I remember about this next band is their name. They're called 8 Foot Sativa. Let's get it on. Here's some rock and roll. Turn it up.
Shadow Masters.
Support the Russ Belville Show. Text the word Russ to 420-420 and connect with the National Cannabis Coalition. You can also send $10 to the Russ Belville Show right from your smartphone. That's Russ to 420-420. You're listening to Radical Russ on the Russ Belville Show.
Are you or is someone you know a marijuana smoker? Have you or is someone in your family been arrested for a marijuana violation? You need to know the truth about pot. NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, is the most comprehensive source of information regarding marijuana and its effects on health, as well as legal issues. NORML even offers a database of lawyers specializing in cannabis in your area. NORML, the nation's largest and most successful marijuana law reform organization, has spent decades gathering the knowledge and science on everything related to cannabis. NORML is the best resource to find out the truth about marijuana, connect with a lawyer in your area, or help find an end to prohibition. Information is available at norml.org, that's NORML.org, or toll free at 888-67-NORML.
A cannabis broadcast starring John K. and Scott W. from Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, Canada, Wednesdays at 7 a.m. Pacific on 420radio.org.
One of the most disturbing elements of the Prohibition War is how it's made police the enemy of otherwise law-abiding cannabis consumers. Fortunately, one group of police officers knows the futility of prohibition and reaches out to educate the community and current law enforcement. Today, the Russ Belville Show visits with another speaker from Law Enforcement Against Prohibition with one clear message. Cops say legalize drugs.
Welcome back, everybody. 30 after the hour, and I'm here in St. Paul, Minnesota, where yesterday I was a part of the American Spirits, the Rise and Fall of Prohibition, an exhibition that's going on here that basically chronicles the rise of the temperance movement from the 1840s on through Prohibition in the 1920s and its repeal in the 1930s. And this was part of a fundraiser for Minnesota NORML. And I've got to say, one of the swankiest marijuana-related events I've ever attended. It was fabulous. It was catered. It was an amazing thing. We will have video of it for you on next week's show. We had some bandwidth problems here at the hotel, so I couldn't get it uploaded for you for today's show, but I was able to get some audio uploaded for you, so I hope you can appreciate the audio. Now, it's not a direct audio off the board. It is in a big, cavernous kind of a hall, so there's a bit of an echo to it, and I apologize for that. But you will have Neil Franklin, the Executive Director of LEAP.
My home state of Maryland, so this is a real fitting venue to this because my home state of Maryland never ever supported federal alcohol prohibition. We had a strong governor back then, and we had a strong legislative body back then, and they never supported those policies. And so it was called the free state for a couple of reasons. Number one, slavery, and then number two, because we never supported the policies of alcohol prohibition. And I'm working very hard back in my home state of Maryland to undo the policies of prohibition for marijuana. So again, such a great venue for this tonight. I realized something that when I was mingling around with folks earlier tonight, that there are some people who don't know my story. We just heard, Randy talk about his story, and I didn't know the details of his story. And I think it's important that we all share our stories. We don't tell them enough. And I think if we made them more public and we shared them more, I think we would move this issue along at a quicker pace. So just real quick, because I have 2 other points to make before I close. I've got over three decades in law enforcement in the state of Maryland. I retired from the Maryland State Police in 1999. Most of my career was working in narcotics. I worked undercover in the early 1980s. And let me just say this, most of the arrests that we made were not drug kingpins or heavyweight dealers. They were simple marijuana possession arrests. And it's no different today. So I think that's an important point to make. So then I ended up commanding 7 drug task forces in the western part of the state, 1 per county, west of the Baltimore metro area. And then I ended up with 9 task forces on the eastern shore of Maryland and Hartford and Cecil counties, 1 per county again. And again, it continued, arrest after arrest after arrest, civil asset forfeiture, and all that comes with that, how we just strip people of their money and of their property. And again, even though those policies of civil asset forfeiture were put in place for major drug dealers, the people who bore the weight of that were the people who were arrested for minor possession cases. The people who had the least. I ended my career with the state police as a head of training in 1999. There was a good friend of mine, his name was Ed Toby, who worked with me for many years. He was working undercover for the Maryland State Police. And he had been working undercover for about 14 years at the time I retired from the Maryland State Police. And he and I were having a conversation during the early part of 2000 about a case he was working with the FBI in Washington, D.C. on a Safe Streets program. And he was buying cocaine from a mid-level drug dealer. So when October came around, they were going to make the last buy of drugs from this guy, and they were going to take him down. But as it is with the nature of this underground illicit drug trade, like in Baltimore, Washington, D.C., many major cities around the country, you know, if you're going to rip off another drug dealer, unfortunately, because it's not regulated and controlled, and it's such a violent business, you have to kill that drug dealer. Because if you don't, then you'll be retaliated against. This drug dealer did not know he was a police officer, and he decided he wanted to rip it totally off on October 30th of 2000, that night. So when the drug dealer, when he returned back to the car where Ed was waiting, he shot him at point-blank range. Now, as we filled the hospital that night where Ed was taken, many police officers were bound to go back out in the streets and to push harder than ever before. Anyone who had anything to do with illegal drugs, they were going to take care of business, and they did. But there were a handful of us that said, wait a minute, something's just not right here. That's right. Okay, because we knew of other, not just other police officers that were dying somewhat on a regular basis from enforcing these policies and working undercover, but civilians were getting caught in the crossfire. Even the people who were on the corners selling the drugs, fighting each other, even their lives have value. Every life has value. So we started researching and we started looking at data. In 2002, I stumbled across Law Enforcement Against Prohibition's brand new website. You know, Jack Cole and Peter Chris had formed the organization, and I signed up, and I was still active in law enforcement with the Baltimore Police Department at that time, and I started speaking for the organization in 2008. That made me, unfortunately, it took that violence, that's what it took for me to pause just long enough to see that something wasn't right. And I wish that never had to happen. But it did. And so I will not waste it. For the rest of my life, 2 more points. That's what it took for me to make that 180-degree turn. So, what about other law enforcement? You know, they've experienced similar things. They've had comrades who have been killed in the line of duty fighting this battle of war on drugs. You know, they've seen the same things that I've seen. And so why is it so difficult for many law enforcement to come around? And there are a couple reasons. Number one, you know, there is that monetary dynasty thing, you know, civil asset forfeiture that I mentioned. There is a lot of money in the business. Everybody's getting paid off of this damn drug war, and it's a shame. Okay, even law enforcement. But I think even more important than the money, why it's so difficult for law enforcement to make this turn, is because we've been at this nonsense for so long, enforcing these policies for so long. Unlike alcohol prohibition, which was only 13 years, we've been at this for decades, folks, and it's become part of law enforcement's identity. That's right. Okay, when I say law enforcement, I'm not talking about a particular police department's identity. I'm talking about an individual police officer's identity. That was most of my career. That was most of what I did. You know, I think about so many other folks that I work with, you know, and how they've been working the streets, drug and addiction teams, decade after decade, not going up through the ranks and changing job, you know, descriptions or anything, just doing this day after day after day, pulling over cars, searching cars, hidden compartments, exposed to the violence around it, and making the inappropriate link, you know, to drug use and the violence, you know, not realizing that it's the policies of prohibition that cause the violence, not the drug use. Seizures and the arrests, and they get the pats on the back, they get the awards, and it becomes their identity as individuals. Some retire from law enforcement and they travel the country, if not the world, speaking and training other police departments how to do this work. Yes, it becomes, again, it continues to be part of who they are. And now all of a sudden, that identity is being threatened. Yes, it is. Rightly so. It is being threatened, and they don't know how to deal with it. They don't know how to handle it. So they push back and they push back. Law enforcement in and of itself is such a closed society. How many people here have been to a law enforcement wedding? Not many. Unless it's a family relative or you just happen to have a close friend, which is odd in many cases. Close enough to be invited to a wedding. I just use that example just to demonstrate how closed the society is. Ending these policies of prohibition, marijuana prohibition, is like someone coming up to you and saying, you have to change your name. I wouldn't mind. My first name's not really Neil. Many people don't know this. My first name is Stanford. I might not push back against that, but it's like someone coming up to you and saying you have to change your name. First, middle, and last name. Your identity. Who you are. What you've been about. And that's difficult. It takes courage. You really find out who your friends are. That was my second point. Here's my third point. Portland was 2010, right? Yeah. Okay. That was my first global conference. It was right after Proposition 19 in California. So many sad faces. It didn't pass. But let me tell you how important that was. If it wasn't for Proposition 19, you wouldn't see today what's going on in Colorado. Proposition 19 started an educational campaign about marijuana across this country that it had never seen before. When I spoke at the Portland conference for NORML, I talked about momentum and how Proposition 19 in 2010 really gave a boost to the momentum that we needed to get this effort going, to get this thing moving. to get this train out of the station. And ever since then, we have not lost momentum. At every turn, something else, another victory, another state, another city, whether it's medical marijuana, decrim, or legalization in these two states that we have. Even Uruguay, after looking at Colorado and Washington State, we're going to be the first country. Momentum. Why couldn't we sustain momentum back in the 1970s? And I said we. Probably shouldn't have said we because I was out locking people up back then. But anyway, why couldn't we, for the sake of this conversation, why couldn't we do that back in the 1970s? Here's the difference. Back in the 1970s, as Keith said, you know, it was primarily about those who wanted to exercise their rights, as you rightly had, to use marijuana. That's what this country's about. That's what the movement was about back then. But as Ethan Nadelman says from DPA, today's movement is about people who like drugs, like marijuana, love marijuana. Yeah? Yeah. It's about people who hate it. And it's about people like me who really don't give a damn. But we all want this policy to end so people can exercise their freedom, so we're no longer being persecuted by the police, so we're no longer having SWAT teams visit us in the middle of the night. Dynamic entries, flashbang grenades, and shooting the family pets. And sometimes, unfortunately, shooting us, people. It's a movement about human rights. It's a movement about civil rights. Are you familiar with the ACLU's recent report, national report, about the disparity issues of marijuana arrests across this country? If you haven't read it, folks, it's online. ACLU, you need to go look at it. Because if you were black in this country and you happen to have a little bit of weed on you, you're more than 3 times more likely to be arrested than if you're white. That's right. That's just one of the many issues with this failed policy. Many issues. So here we are. Things are moving. We have momentum. We have statistics. We have the information we need. And if you look around the room, we have the people. To maintain the momentum, we need to continue to organize. We need to continue to work together, whether we're for recreational use, whether we're for medical use, or whether we just want to see the policy change. We all want the same thing. You guys have a voter referendum here in this state. So don't you don't? Okay, so then you are like my state, Maryland, so you can get the legislature to put it up for a voter referendum. Okay, so you're like my own state. Well, this is good, because I'm going to go with this example. Here's what we're doing in Maryland. Last year we had a bill to tax and regulate in Maryland. We had 4 co-sponsors on the bill last year. This year, we had 32. Here's how we did it. Here's how we did it. We formed a coalition, organized. We formed a coalition. When the ACLU came out with that report, and then they did one specifically for Maryland, we said, we got to work with these guys. So, the ACLU, LEAP, the NAACP, Marijuana Policy Project, Maryland Normal, CASA Maryland, a couple of unions, the Legal Women Voters. I mean, I could go on and on and on. There's like over 20 organizations who have come together to form this coalition, and we stormed the Capitol of Maryland. Every day, more and more and more of our policymakers are coming around. They're beginning to see that it is no longer politically safe to ignore this issue and to push back against this issue. So that's what I wanted to say. I wanted to leave you guys with something. We started this in Maryland. We're now trying to do it in Pennsylvania. We're talking about doing it in Virginia with Normal in Virginia and the ACLU. You've got some great leadership here, folks. Should number one be active with this coalition of folks in moving the issue forward, but you should also be reaching out to your friends that aren't here, your family members that aren't here, and you need to get their butts involved as well. Because again, this is not just about people who just want to smoke weed. Yes, that's a big, important part of it. It is. Exercise your rights to do that. But it's about so many other things, from crime to police-community relationships to disparity issues to civil rights to human rights. I could go on all day. I just want to thank you guys for the work you do.
That's LEAP Executive Director Neil Franklin speaking at the Minnesota History Museum on the American Spirits Rise and Fall of Prohibition exhibit. An amazing speech and interesting factoid. Neil Franklin, Keith Stropp, and Russ Belville are really Stanford, Russell, and John. Be right back with a short rant. Stick around.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
This is Radical Russ encouraging you to take a look at the Weed Blog every day. Johnny Green and the staff at the Weed Blog are on top of all the latest developments in the fight to end marijuana prohibition nationwide. You can even get the Weed Blog on your smartphone by installing the Weed Blog app for iPhone and Android. If it's about weed, it's on the Weed Blog, including my original writing. So don't delay, read the Weed Blog today. You can get 420 Radio on the go with our Shoutcast stream for all internet-enabled media players. Go to rad-r.us/420shout or just click the Shoutcast icon below the live radio feed at 420.
Pills? You mean you really are taking drugs?
I need them.
Jesse, give me those.
I need them, Zach. I have to sing.
Jesse, you can't sing tonight.
Yes, I can. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm so scared.
Jesse.
Look, when I was a kid, I inhaled frequently. That was the point.
Remember, Mr. President, you once were just one bust away from being Barry the drug criminal.
Life ain't a box of chocolates gum. That's why people smoke weed and take bumps and drink way too damn much and get drunk and do it all.
You want answers? I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended a Shaolin temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious. I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical rant.
Well, while I was busy, apparently folks over at ABC News Nightline decided to pull out madness. I'm going to take a look at the show later tonight when I get a chance, but right now I'm just going off of the ABC News website, and the headline there, Colorado marijuana businesses embrace new drug at center of DEA crackdown in California. A new drug. Oh my gosh, there's a new drug out there that I haven't tried yet. Let's see what it is. Oh my gosh, let's read more about that. Well, of course you know what they're talking about. Here's the quote from ABC News. Wax, the ultimate distillation of marijuana, is so potent that it is said a single hit will keep a person high for more than a day. Okay. Sure. Can you tell me where I can pick up some of this wax? It keeps people high for more than a day. Nightline is jumping full force into the reefer madness bandwagon here. The ultimate distillation of marijuana. Now, at least that's accurate. At least that's an accurate term. You're distilling. Now, the distilling kind of conjures up alcohol stills, but still you are just bringing marijuana down to its essential essence of THC, CBD, and terpenes and such as a concentrate for sure. But keeps you high for a day or more? No, don't think so. It's still marijuana. It still works the same way. Here's the person who spoke to Nightline. They have a quote here. An undercover DEA informant. Oh, a DEA snitch. Okay. Who asked to remain anonymous. Really? Who said this, quote, "There's no weed out there that possesses the punching power that wax does. It's like smoking 20 joints of the best grade of weed that you have ever had into one hit of the wax." 20 joints, really. 20 joints of the best weed you can find is like one hit of wax. Really? Really? Let me just put this out there. I know this is a sample of N equals 1. I know this is anecdotal, and I know I'm not the casual marijuana consumer. I have built up quite a tolerance over my time, but let me just explain something to you, ABC News. I have access to the best wax, the best shatter, the best concentrates on planet Earth. Quite literally. The best that have ever been made in human history. Okay? My friends are Cannabis Cup winners in the makings of concentrates. I interview scientists and chemists and people who know what they're talking about when it comes to the manufacture of these things. And I've had these samples. I've had them. And I'm not here to say that they're not more powerful. In fact, I've overdosed on dabs. There's 2 times in my life where I've had so much of such potent dabs that I puked. Right? I puked from it. Had to have a hot shower. But it went away after a couple of hours, folks. It did not last all day. It went away in a couple of hours. And I also have access to some of the best flour grown on this planet in the history of humankind. In fact, I rolled up for the party last night. I rolled up a couple of joints of Silvertip from Brightside Dispensary in Portland, brightsidepdx.com. I rolled them up pretty thick style, too. I roll with those 1.5 papers, right? You know, pinky-sized joints. So I rolled a couple of those pinky-sized joints up with this Silvertip, which has been lab-tested at 26.2% THC. And I've smoked one of those all the way through, and it got me quite high. I have trouble believing I would have been able to smoke 20 of them. There's no way that a hit off of wax is equal to 20 of the best joints ever rolled. It's just not true. And of course, since we're speaking with the DEA on this issue, we're going to find even more reefer madness. Now, ABC News points out the explosive part of dabs, right? The making of them can set off an explosion. But that's not what they want to hype. They're going to hype the use of them. Here's from ABC News. Law enforcement says the process of making wax is not the only thing dangerous about it. Gary Hill, an assistant special agent at the DEA San Diego office, says, quote, "We have seen people have an onset of psychosis and even brain damage from that exposure to that high concentration of THC. Our concern is that this is going to spread before we can get it under control," end quote. Gary, I'm not exactly sure where you got your medical degree that helps you understand the brain damage that someone got from their dabs. But sorry, marijuana does not damage brains. Marijuana heals brains. And it doesn't matter if we're talking about not your father's Woodstock weed or smoking flowers or concentrating it into a concentrate form. It's still THC and CBD and CBN and CBG and THCV and a whole host of cannabinoids and terpenes and flavonoids. Whether it's dilute in a flower or compressed in a concentrate does not change its chemical reactions within the brain. People are not getting brain damage from doing dabs. And psychosis? No. Extremely doubtful as well. So there they go. They're hyping the danger of dabs like I predicted they would. About 3 years ago, I told you this was coming. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Power to you. Soda History Museum on the rise and fall of prohibition. Thanks for joining us. For Brian the Red back in Portland, I'm Radical Russ out here in St. Paul. And until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you